What's up, Couch fam? Welcome to my Week 13 waiver wire video. Didn't think there'd be too many waivers this week, but when I examined the situation further, there are a good amount of players we can pick up, especially streaming options, and looking forward into the playoffs, some good defenses to pick off for that last stretch of 3 games there. Keep in mind, huge bye-mageddon this week. 6 big-time teams are on bye for Week 13. The Bills, Bears, Giants, Raiders, Ravens, and Vikings are all on bye. Only 2 teams left that don't have bye weeks. So week 14, the Cardinals and Commanders do have a bye week, and then no more bye weeks. Okay, for quarterbacks, I like starting quarterbacks against the Chiefs. It's in reality, it's not the most ideal situation. The Chiefs defense is pretty good. It doesn't always work out, but I still consider the Chiefs offense a very strong offense, and teams will need to throw the ball and play catch up when they play against the Chiefs typically. And that's why I do have Jordan Love as my QB1. He also has all his weapons healthy except Luke Musgrave. But I think the time he had to develop some chemistry and actually play with guys like Christian Watson, I think it's really showing now. He started off well, kind of fell off, and now he's back again. So I do like Jordan Love this week going against the Chiefs. If you can't get him, look for Russell Wilson, a very good QB. Not a lot of upside. He'll get some first downs. He'll throw a touchdown or 2, get some rushing yards, but doesn't really throw for more than 200 pass yards, unfortunately. So doesn't have that high ceiling we look for. A guy who does have somewhat of a ceiling is Gardner Minshew. Now, he is a little bit hard to predict. He's up and down. I wouldn't be surprised if this guy scored 7 fantasy points or if he scored 22 fantasy points. Either scenario could happen. Gardner Minshew is going up against the Titans, by the way. We have Baker Mayfield going against the Panthers. Should be a very low-scoring game. Baker Mayfield doesn't have too much upside, unfortunately, and this type of game script doesn't produce high upside either, so that sucks for that. Matthew Stafford, on the other hand, really good quarterback, high upside. Unfortunately, he's facing one of the best defenses this week in the Browns. So not the best streaming option, but also an ideal stash or QB2 if you do want some depth at the quarterback position. Everyone's getting injured this year, especially quarterbacks. A third of the QBs are injured, or actually maybe it's closer to a half. Yeah, it's more than a third of the quarterbacks are hurt this year. So yeah, you may want to have a QB2. I think it's very smart to have a QB2 this year, the way things are going. And then we have in deeper leagues, Jake Browning. Derek Carr, I did pick him up a week or 2 ago because I have Lamar Jackson, and unfortunately it's looking pretty grim. I thought he was going to be a really solid high floor QB, not a lot of upside. I don't really trust the Lions D to do anything, but they have some injuries here. Like Mike Thomas, we know he's definitely out. He's going to miss several weeks, right? Olave got hurt. Rashid Shaheed got hurt. Now they might get one of them back. Maybe Olave comes back, but with all these weapons missing and Derek Carr just not having that much upside as is, I'm going to rank him a little bit lower. If you can get one of those 2 guys back, Shaheed or Olave, I would definitely boost him. But as of now, I don't really like it. We're predicting a ton of checkdowns to Alvin Kamara. We saw that 1 or 2 times this year, and I think that's going to be the game plan going against the Lions. Lions should win this game against the Saints. And number 8, we have Will Levis. Number 9, Bailey Zappi. I don't expect Mac Jones to start anymore. He's totally lost his mojo. He has no juice, no nothing. He's nothing, man. He's gas particles as of now. So I don't know why the Patriots wouldn't start Bailey Zappi this week. Joshua Dobbs, I did want to talk about him. I think this is very important. People are talking about literally everybody, how bad he played and how many picks he threw and turnovers, and even had a couple of big time turnover worthy plays that just luckily didn't get intercepted for him. But I'm going to actually talk about the other side, I'm going to give the Bears D a ton of credit. Now, Josh Dobbs with the interceptions. I don't know why I keep doing that with his last name. With the interceptions, it's inexcusable. So I get it, throwing 4 picks and nearly 6 picks. No, you're not supposed to do that. But he was playing with a Kirk Cousins type of playbook. They were calling Kirk Cousins type of plays. He didn't have Justin Jefferson. He didn't really run the ball too much. And I've seen the Bears defense that game, that Monday Night Football game. They weren't just playing Dobbs really that good. They were Dobbs really that good. They were also getting to the ball fast, stopping the screens. Like, they looked really, really good. A rejuvenated Bears team. I was very impressed with their defense. I'm thinking this is a one-off. The man has literally only had one bad game, and I think he'll bounce back. I think he'll remain the starter, but we'll see. I'm not the coach. We'll see what Kevin O'Connell does. He's going to evaluate the position. The Vikings are on bye, but that's my assessment. I think the Bears D played outstanding. I think the play calling didn't help Joshua Dobbs, sorry. And no excuses for him. He did have a very bad game, a disastrous game. But that's my assessment. Anyway, in deeper leagues, we have Kenny Pickett, who I wouldn't start unless I'm in Superflex. And then more injuries to quarterbacks. DTR took quite a hit. He's now in concussion protocol. He took such a big hit. Just a guess, I don't think he's going to play. So I think PJ Walker would get the start week 13 against the Rams. For running backs, Zach Moss is going to be the waiver wire ad. Now, I know he's rostered in a lot of leagues, but by now, or maybe just seconds ago or minutes ago, maybe somebody dropped him before the news broke out that Jonathan Taylor is injured. Now, Jonathan Taylor is expected to only miss 2 or 3 weeks, but I'm not buying that. It's not a for sure thing. I just saw another report that he's expected to miss just 2 weeks. Now, that's a good chance he'll come back in 2 to 3 weeks, and that's what they're expecting, and that's what they're hoping. But we don't know that for sure. Anyway, 2 or 3 weeks during this crucial time in fantasy is a long time. It's a big deal. Like, it's not nothing. And if he misses 4 to 5 weeks, which would be the absolute maximum, I'm thinking, that's actually the entire fantasy season, and he'd be out for the remainder of the fantasy season. So anyway, Zach Moss is my number 1 ad. Doesn't seem like Ken Walker is going to play this week, so Charbonnet, again, is a good spot start. He's not looking good this year, but not really terrible either. And then we got Keaton Mitchell. Just want to remind you guys about him. He's still there. He got a lot of touches, and he looks good, got a lot of upside, but the Ravens are on bye. And there is always going to be some kind of committee there, whether you include Lamar running the ball, whether you got Gus Bus, and I don't know why Justice Hill was in there a lot this past week, and Gus Edwards. They played a very weird game, but this is the Ravens for you. Sometimes it's 4 guys are going to be running the ball. And number 4, we have A.J. Dillon. I have no news about Aaron Jones. I just know that there was basically no chance he was going to play last week for Thanksgiving, and he did not. Don't know the status on Aaron Jones this week, but A.J. Dillon seems to be the only healthy running back there for the Packers as I'm filming this. For wide receivers, Demario Douglas, yet again, number 1 on my wide receivers to add. He is questionable, however, with a head injury. I expect him to be headed into the concussion protocol. That's a big deal. If you can't get him, look for Brandon Cooks, Jaden Reed in that potential shootout or potential Packers throwing the ball all the time in the fourth quarter, catching up with the Chiefs' high-scoring offense. Curtis Samuel, very underrated player, always goes under the radar, but keeps scoring fantasy points on a team who has the top passer in the entire league. That's right, Sam Howell is number 1 in passing. Who would have thought? We got Greg Dortch, who is amazing because Michael Wilson is out. Don't know what's going to happen here. I feel like Greg Dortch is going to torch us if we do start him. I am actually comfortable maybe starting him if Michael Wilson is out, but when Michael Wilson comes back, who knows what's going to happen. Now, they do have a different coach there, so maybe they do keep playing Dortch, because every time he's played, including last year, he's done great, and that should speak for something. And at number 6, we have Jamison Williams. You can hope for a big play, a 50-yard touchdown or something if you start him. For tight ends, we got Dallas Goedert expected, or he's targeting to come back this week against the big game. Could possibly be the game of the season. My Niners going against the Eagles, so he's targeting a return this week. He is questionable, far from a guarantee, but this game has so much hype, you can't ignore it, and I think Dallas Goedert is going to be pushing to play. If he can go, he will definitely go. At number 2, we have Pat Freiermuth. After they fired Matt Canada, this offense put up 400 yards. Oh boy, that is night and day, and that's not a coincidence. I also don't think it's a coincidence that Pat Freiermuth went off. Thankfully, finally, he is one of the most talented tight ends on this list. I love Freiermuth. Hopefully, they'll keep feeding him the ball a little bit. I mean, the man deserves to get at least 4, 5, 6, 7 targets a game. I don't see why he shouldn't. After that, it gets kind of murky. We got Jawan Johnson. I have him ranked so high because the Saints are banged up at the receiver position. Gerald Everett, Chick Okonkwo, Tyler Higbee, Tanner Hudson, Tucker Kraft. Musgrave is injured. Tyler Conklin, who's a kind of a low upside tight end, but the floor is not that bad. Hunter Henry and Cade Otton. For defenses, I looked a little bit forward, looking at weeks 15, 16, and 17, and also weeks 14 as well, and of course this coming week. So, these rankings, they're pretty good. I mean, pay attention to them, but they might change depending on what you're looking for. A 1-week streaming option, maybe a stash, or maybe just purely for the playoffs. So it's going to vary a little bit. But overall, I think I did a good job with the rankings. So sometimes I just go, hey, ignore my rankings this week. But no, I wouldn't ignore them, but just keep in mind you may have to flip 1 or 2 of them depending on what you're looking for. So at number 1, maybe a little bit surprised to some of you, Buccaneers D. Some sweet matchups. I mean, I see no bad matchups here except for maybe the Jaguars. Yeah, and the other ones are at least decent. So this week, week 13, they're facing the Panthers. Then they got the Falcons, then Packers, then Jags, then Saints, and then the Panthers again for the Fantasy Football Super Bowl week 17 matchup. That is looking pretty good, and Bucs D is an above average defense. I will be starting them this week against the Panthers. And if you can't get them, Falcons D going against the Jets. That is sweet. I love that. After that, they face the Bucs, Panthers, Colts, Bears, and then the Saints. A lot of people have already picked up the Chiefs D and stashed them. I know that. Fortunately, I was lucky enough to not start them last week. I think I had the Dolphins D. Because that was 22 fantasy points versus 2 fantasy points. So got lucky there because they were a good start against the Raiders. They just didn't really have any big plays, only got 2 fantasy points. Still, I think this defense is pretty good. They're facing the Packers this week. Not an ideal start. Bills, not an ideal start. But come playoff time, we got some pretty good matchups here. Patriots, Raiders, Bengals, and Chargers. So that's pretty good. I think this is week 18. I don't know why I put that there. 13, 14, 56. Yeah, I don't know why I'm putting week 18. I kind of messed up there, but whatever. Some of you, maybe 5% of people watching do play week 18. So kind of messed up putting them there. But regardless, I guess it's not really a mess up, but just for some reason, I was trying to just put up to week 17. And I added a bonus, week 18, for those that do play week 18, I guess. Okay, so Jaguars D is going up against the Bengals this week. Then the Browns, Ravens, Bucks, Panthers, Titans. You get the deal. Texans D, kind of a sleeper. Rams D going against the Browns. They are really banged up at the QB position. Just kind of look at this big picture. They're missing their QB. They're missing Chubb. Their offense doesn't put up a lot of points. Just seems miraculous whatever they put up points. The Browns D is playing amazing though, and that helps out their offense a bit, right? Play good defense. They have a good kicker, a coach that knows how to run the ball. I mean, all that stuff helps, and their defense is just doing a lot for that team. Colts D going against the Titans. We got the Chargers D going against the Patriots. You know what? I think the Chargers D, I think a little bit more upside here. I think. Let's move the Chargers D up. Then we got the Jets D at number 9 and the Lions D at number 10. Okay, for kickers, Jason Sanders, very good. We keep rolling with him. I've been starting him the last 2 weeks. After that, it's pretty close. It's not a big difference. Jake Moody doesn't have the best matchup or anything, but I think he's matchup proof. I think the Niners are the best team in the league, and Jake Moody's accurate nowadays, and I just trust him. He's a kicker I'll put in. Quick note, these guys are already picked up in your league, but yes, Harrison Butker and Brandon Aubrey, the Chiefs and Cowboys kicker, those are my top kickers this week pretty much. Yeah, I think they're going to be 1 and 2 or tied at 1. They're elite, they're amazing, but they're rostered in 90% of leagues, so they won't be available. If you can't get Jason Sanders, look for Jake Moody, Brandon McManus, Chase McLaughlin, Cameron Dicker, Chris Boswell. Note on this, Chris Boswell's accurate, doesn't have a huge leg, and isn't an upside kicker. Maybe things change with the new OC, with the firing of Matt Canada, but I like Chris Boswell. If you're looking like for a for sure thing, you want good floor, like you don't want to get screwed, that's going to be Chris Boswell. He's going to be available in every league. He's got a good matchup. He's accurate. This is it. Like, it's going to be solid. Yunwei Koo, a little bit risky. He had a minor injury last week, but still played. And then we're kind of getting wishy-washy here with these guys. Matt Gay, Dustin Hopkins, Nick Folk, and Riley Patterson. Actually, he's a pretty good kicker. He's been horrible the last 2 weeks. I've completely lost trust in him. And I'm the guy who's always, like, I'll be the last guy to overreact and be like, look, man, I'm dropping this kicker. I'm not starting him. I lost faith in him after one game. But there's so many options, and the Lions are kind of coming down to earth, and just all this going on. I mean, I think Riley Patterson has -1 fantasy points the past 2 weeks combined total. It's like totally unacceptable. Like, it's just something I can't get behind. Did want to at least mention him, though. Matchup is great. They're playing in New Orleans. I believe that's a dome. Like, matchup's great. It's in a dome. Like, everything's awesome. And he used to be a really good kicker, but I just don't have much faith in him. I'm ranking him super low. If you're in a deep league, like super deep league, like we're talking really deep, like 20 team, and you got Riley Patterson, you can roll with them. You're playing with fire, but I guess I'll put it like this. No floor, he can get you 0 points, or maybe he goes off and gets you 13, 14 fantasy points. I can see either scenario happening, but as of right now, I do not trust Riley Patterson. All right, folks, that's going to do it for this video. I read every single YouTube comment, so drop a comment if I missed any names, or if you have any fantasy questions, I will get to those. Also, make sure you subscribe to this channel, and we have a second YouTube channel called Fantasy Couch Podcast. It's the Orange Couch. Make sure you subscribe to that second YouTube channel. All right, guys, good luck this week. Let's make playoffs, and I'll see you guys on the next video /live stream.